Captain Vex stood on the bridge of the Crimson Talon, his red eyes scanning the star charts displayed on the main screen. The massive warship cut through space like a blade through water, its dark hull covered in scars from 100 battles. Each mark told a story of conquest, of another world brought under the heel of the Keth Empire. "Captain," called out Drac, the ship's tactical officer. His voice carried the excitement of a predator who had found fresh prey. "We're picking up a distress signal." Vex turned toward his subordinate, a cruel smile spreading across his scaled face. The Keth had been hunting in this sector for 3 weeks without finding anything worth their time. Most species in this part of the galaxy had learned to avoid areas where Keth ships patrolled. The smart ones fled at the first sign of their approach. The foolish ones became slaves or corpses. "What kind of signal?" Vex asked, moving closer to the tactical station. Drac's clawed fingers danced across his control panel, bringing up the sensor data. "It's coming from a single ship, about 2 light hours from our current position. The signal is weak and using old transmission methods, very primitive." The bridge crew perked up at this news. Primitive meant easy prey. Easy prey meant quick profits and minimal risk. After weeks of empty space, they were all eager for some action. "Show me," Vex commanded. The main screen changed to display the detected vessel. It appeared to be a cargo ship of some kind, roughly cylindrical in shape with a battered hull that had seen better days. The ship was moving slowly through space, broadcasting its distress call on several different frequencies. "Analysis?" Vex asked his science officer, a thin Keth named Rix. Rix studied his readings carefully before responding. "The ship appears to be damaged, Captain. I'm detecting fluctuations in their power systems and what looks like a hull breach near the cargo section. Their engines are running at maybe 60% capacity. Crew complement? Hard to tell with their primitive shielding, but I estimate no more than 50 beings aboard, possibly fewer." Vex nodded with satisfaction. 50 crew members meant 50 potential slaves to sell in the markets of the inner worlds. The cargo might contain valuable resources or technology. Even if it didn't, the ship itself could be stripped for parts. "What about escort?" he asked. "Any other ships in the area?" Drac shook his head. "Nothing on sensors, Captain. They appear to be completely alone." This was almost too good to be true. A damaged ship with a small crew, no escorts, and broadcasting. Their location for anyone to hear. Vex had seen desperate captains make foolish decisions before, but this seemed especially stupid. "Could be a trap," warned Beck, the ship's security chief. He was older than the rest of the crew and had survived more battles by being cautious. Sometimes merchant ships travel in groups but spread out to avoid detection. Vex considered this possibility. The Keth had encountered such tactics before, usually employed by species who had learned to fear them. But the sensor readings showed no other ships within several light hours of their position. "Even if it is a trap," Vex said finally. "What could a primitive cargo ship do against the Crimson Talon? We've destroyed entire fleets. One damaged freighter poses no threat to us." The Crimson Talon was indeed a formidable vessel. Nearly a kilometer long, it carried enough firepower to level a small city. Its plasma cannons could punch through the strongest shields, while its void torpedoes could crack a planet's crust. The ship had been the flagship of Admiral Cax before Vex had killed him in single combat, and claimed the vessel as his own. "Set course for the distress signal," Vex ordered. "Maximum speed." The ship's engines roared to life, propelling the massive warship toward its target. Around the bridge, the crew began preparing for the hunt. Weapons were charged, boarding pods were loaded, and slave collars were counted and recounted. "How long until we reach them?" Vex asked. "At current speed, approximately 4 hours," replied the navigator. 4 hours to plan their attack. Vex settled into his command chair and began considering his options. They could disable the ship's engines and board it, taking the crew alive for the slave markets, or they could simply destroy it and salvage what remained. The choice would depend on what they found when they arrived. "Captain," Drac called out, interrupting his thoughts, "I'm getting some unusual readings from the target vessel." "What kind of readings?" "Their power signature is strange. It's not matching any known ship design in our database, and there's something else." Drac paused, frowning at his instruments. They're not running away. Vex raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Most ships, when they send out a distress call, either try to find somewhere to hide, or at least attempt evasive maneuvers when they detect an approaching vessel. But this ship is maintaining its current course and speed. They're not even trying to avoid us. Maybe their navigation systems are damaged too, suggested Rix. Maybe, Drac replied, but he didn't sound convinced. Vex stood up and walked to the main view screen. In the distance, barely visible as a speck of light, was their target. Something about the situation felt wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on what it was. Are they responding to our approach? He asked. No, Captain. They haven't changed course, speed, or communication patterns since we started heading toward them. This was definitely unusual behavior. Most species, even the primitive ones, had enough sense to be afraid when a Keth warship approached. The smart ones surrendered immediately. The stupid ones tried to run or fight, but this ship was doing neither. Maybe they don't know who we are, suggested Beck. Vex laughed at this idea. Everyone in this sector knows about the Keth Empire. Our reputation has spread to every inhabited world within 50 light years. Then maybe they've given up, said Rix. Some species prefer death to slavery. We'll find out soon enough, Vex replied. Continue approach. I want all weapons ready and boarding teams prepared. If they want to make this easy for us, who are we to complain? The Crimson Talon continued its approach, cutting through space toward the mysterious vessel. Behind them, they left a trail of conquered worlds and broken civilizations. Ahead of them waited what appeared to be another easy victory. But something about this hunt felt different. The prey wasn't behaving like prey should. It wasn't running, hiding, or fighting back. It was simply waiting. Vex had been hunting for most of his adult life, and his instincts had kept him alive through countless battles. Those same instincts were now telling him that this situation was not what it appeared to be. But the Crimson Talon was the most powerful ship in this sector. Whatever was waiting for them ahead, they could handle it, or so they thought. Captain Blake stood in the command center of the Defiance, watching the approaching alien vessel on his main screen. The ship was massive, at least 3 times larger than anything in the human fleet. Its dark hull bristled with weapon ports and armor plating that spoke of countless battles. Distance? Blake asked his tactical officer. 2 hours out and closing fast, replied Walsh, a veteran of the Mars conflicts who had seen more combat than most soldiers twice his age. They're not trying to hide their approach. Blake nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for when they set the trap. For months, human colonies on the outer rim had been reporting attacks by unknown alien raiders. Ships would disappear, colonies would go silent, and rescue teams would find nothing but empty settlements and scorch marks. The pattern was always the same. The attackers would respond to distress calls, destroy or capture any ships they found, and take prisoners. Intelligence reports suggested the aliens were slavers, treating conquered species as property to be bought and sold. Today, that pattern would end. Status report, Blake ordered. All systems green, Walsh replied. Stealth fields are holding, steady. External appearance matches the profile of a damaged cargo vessel. The fake distress signal is broadcasting on all frequencies. The Defiance looked nothing like the warship it actually was. Special hull plating disguised its true size and shape. Holographic projectors created the illusion of damage and jury-rigged repairs. Even the power signature had been modified to appear primitive and weak. But beneath the disguise, the ship was humanity's latest and deadliest creation. Built in the secret shipyards of Europa, it represented everything humans had learned about warfare over thousands of years of conflict. Incoming transmission, announced Communications Officer Park. The alien vessel is hailing us. Put it through, Blake said. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the alien ship. The captain was a tall reptilian creature with red eyes and scales that looked like armor. When he spoke, his voice was harsh and filled with arrogance. Primitive vessel, you will prepare to be boarded. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and you will suffer before you die. Blake had expected this. Intelligence reports had described similar communications from other attacks. The aliens didn't negotiate or show mercy. They simply took what they wanted. "This is Captain Blake of the UES Defiance," he replied calmly. "You have entered human space without permission and threatened a human vessel. You have 30 seconds to change course and leave this system." The alien captain's response was laughter. Cold, cruel laughter that echoed across the comm channel. "Human?" the alien said. "We have never heard of your species. No matter. You will make fine slaves for the markets of Keth Prime. Your ship will make a useful addition to our fleet." 25 seconds, Blake said, his voice still calm. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm the Crimson Talon," the alien continued. "We have conquered dozens of species across 3 star systems. Your pitiful vessel will be 20 seconds. The alien captain's expression changed slightly. He wasn't used to prey that didn't cower or beg for mercy. Most species would be pleading for their lives by now. "You do not understand," the alien said. "We are the Keth Empire. We are death itself sailing between the stars. We have turned entire worlds into ash and 15 seconds. Blake's crew watched their instruments carefully. The alien ship was still approaching at maximum speed, showing no signs of changing course. Weapon signatures were building as they prepared to fire. 10 seconds. "Your bravery is admirable but foolish," the alien captain said. "Very well. If you choose death over slavery, we will grant your wish." 5 seconds. The alien ship's weapons were now fully charged. Plasma cannons swiveled toward the Defiance and torpedo tubes prepared to fire. On the alien bridge, the captain raised his hand to give the attack order. "Time's up," Blake said quietly. He turned to Walsh. "Show them what a human warship looks like." Walsh's hands moved across his control panel with practiced precision. Dropping stealth fields, revealing primary systems, all weapons coming online. The transformation was incredible to watch. The battered cargo ship that had been limping through space suddenly began to change. Hull plates slid aside to reveal massive weapon arrays. Armor sections extended and locked into place. The ship's true size became apparent as hidden sections deployed. Most shocking of all were the weapons themselves. Where other species used energy beams and explosive projectiles, humanity had weaponized physics itself. Rail guns that could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds. Gravitational manipulators that could crush a ship from within. Quantum torpedo systems that could ignore shields entirely. On the alien bridge, alarms began blaring. Sensors that had showed a primitive cargo ship now registered a vessel unlike anything in their databases. Weapon signatures appeared that their computers couldn't identify or classify. "Impossible," the alien captain whispered, staring at his screens. "What kind of ship is this?" Blake's voice came through the comm system, still perfectly calm. "This is the UES Defiance, a human warship. You were warned to leave. You chose to stay." "Fire!" the alien captain screamed to his crew. "All weapons fire!" Plasma beams and energy torpedoes streaked toward the human ship. They struck the Defiance's shields and simply disappeared. Absorbed by barrier technology the aliens had never seen before. "Our turn," Blake said to Walsh. The first demonstration was gentle by human standards. A single gravitational pulse struck the alien ship's engine section. The effect was immediate and precise. Their engines shut down completely, but the hull remained intact. The massive warship that had been charging toward them suddenly found itself drifting helplessly in space. "What did you do?" the alien captain demanded. "Our engines are offline, but I detect no damage to the hull." "That was a gravitational distortion pulse," Blake explained, as if giving a lecture to students. "It disrupts the quantum field that powers your engines. The effect is temporary but complete. Your ship is now dead in space." The alien crew frantically worked at their stations, trying to restore power. Nothing they did had any effect. Their engines were simply gone, shut down, by technology they couldn't understand. "This is impossible," the alien captain said. "No species has such weapons." "You said you've conquered dozens of species," Blake replied. "Did any of them spend their entire evolutionary history fighting wars against themselves? Did any of them develop nuclear weapons before they achieved spaceflight? Did any of them nearly destroy their own planet multiple times before they learned to work together? The alien captain had no answer. Humans did, Blake continued. We've been perfecting the art of warfare for thousands of years, not against alien invaders or monsters from space, but against other humans. We've learned to kill efficiently, precisely, and completely. A second weapon fired from the Defiance. This time, a quantum torpedo phased through the alien ship's shields, as if they weren't there, and disabled their primary weapon array. Again, no hull damage, no casualties, just surgical precision that left their enemies helpless. Every weapon on this ship was designed by a species that considers war a science. Blake said, "We've had practice." Captain Vex stared at his screens in complete disbelief. The readings made no sense. His ship's computer systems were struggling to process what they were seeing, throwing up error messages and warnings faster than his crew could read them. Status. Report, he barked at his officers. Drax's hand shook as he worked at his station. Engines are completely offline, Captain. I'm showing 0 power to the drive systems, but there's no damage to any components. It's as if the engines simply forgot how to work. Weapons? Vex demanded. Primary array is down, replied Beck from his security station. Whatever hit us passed right through our shields like they weren't there. But again, no physical damage. The weapons are intact, they just won't respond to commands. Vex had never encountered anything like this in 20 years of conquest. When the Keth attacked, they destroyed things. Completely. Violently. The idea of disabling systems without causing damage was foreign to their way of thinking. Sir, Rix called out. From his science station, his voice filled with fear. I'm detecting more weapons systems on the human ship. Many more. The main screen updated to show a tactical analysis of the enemy vessel. What they saw defied everything they understood about space combat. The human ship wasn't just armed. It was a floating arsenal of technologies the Keth had never imagined. Those readings can't be correct, Vex said. Run the scan again. I've run it 3 times, Captain. The results are the same. That ship has at least 40 different weapon systems, and I can't identify what half of them do. While alien civilizations built bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had taken a completely different approach. They had weaponized forces that most species barely understood existed. Look at this, Rix continued, his voice getting higher with panic. They have something called gravitational manipulation arrays. And here, quantum field disruptors. What does that even mean? Vex studied the display. Each weapon system had a name that told him nothing about what it actually did. Kinetic, acceleration chambers, electromagnetic pulse generators, molecular bond destabilizers. The list went on and on. Sir, Drac interrupted. The human captain is hailing us again. Put him through, Vex ordered. Blake's calm face appeared on the screen. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, showing none of the panic that filled the Kith bridge. I hope you're beginning to understand your situation, Blake said. Your ship is now completely helpless. Your engines are offline, your weapons are disabled, and your shields are useless against our technology. What do you want? Vex asked. He had never been in this position before. Completely at the mercy of an enemy. I want you to learn, Blake replied. Your species has been attacking human colonies for months, taking our people as slaves, destroying our ships. Today, that ends. You cannot stop the Keth Empire with one ship, Vex said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Blake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. One ship is all we need for this demonstration. Computer, display weapon inventory. The screen split to show a list of the Defiance's weapon systems. There were dozens of them, each with a name that sounded more terrifying than the last. The gravitational pulse you experienced was from our GP7 distortion cannon, Blake explained. It creates a localized gravity field that disrupts the quantum foam your engines use for faster-than-light travel. Very precise, completely reversible, and impossible to defend against. Vex's science officer was frantically taking notes, trying to understand what he was hearing. The quantum torpedo that disabled your weapons uses phase shift technology to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It can pass through any known shield or armor and disable specific systems without harming the crew. Impossible, Vex whispered. Nothing is impossible if you understand the underlying physics, Blake continued. Humans have spent centuries studying the fundamental forces of the universe, not to explore or understand, but to find new ways to kill each other. The human captain gestured to someone off-screen. Show them the kinetic accelerator. A new weapon system came online aboard the Defiance. This one Vex could see, a long barrel that extended from the ship's hull and began to glow with contained energy. This fires tungsten rods at 12% of light speed, Blake explained. At that velocity, a projectile the size of your thumb could crack a moon. We typically use telephone pole-sized rounds. The weapon fired, not at the Crimson Talon, but at a small asteroid floating nearby. The tungsten rod struck the space rock and simply erased it from existence. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of rapidly expanding dust. Vex's crew fell silent. They had never seen destruction so complete and effortless. That was a small round, Blake added. We have much larger ones. Why are you showing us this? Vex asked. His voice had lost all traces of arrogance. Because your empire needs to understand what it's facing, Blake replied. Humans didn't develop these weapons to fight aliens. We developed them to fight other humans. Do you know what that means? Vex shook his head. It means we're very, very good at it. Humans have been at war with themselves for our entire history. We've had practice with every form of combat you can imagine and several you can't. Blake gestured again, and another weapon system activated. This one looked like a collection of spinning rings around a central core. Electromagnetic pulse generator, Blake said. It can fry every electronic system on your ship while leaving the hull intact. Very useful for taking prisoners. The weapon charged but didn't fire. The threat was clear enough. Or perhaps you'd prefer the molecular destabilizer. Blake continued. It breaks the bonds between atoms. Your ship would simply fall apart at the molecular level. Takes about 30 seconds for complete dissolution. Vex felt something he had never experienced before in combat. Helplessness. His ship, which had been the terror of 3 star systems, was completely outmatched by technologies he couldn't even comprehend. How is this possible, he asked. Your ship appeared primitive. Your technology seemed basic. Camouflage, Blake replied. Another thing humans are very good at. We've learned that sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't see coming. The tactical display updated again, showing even more weapon systems coming online. Each one represented a different approach to destruction, a different way of killing that the Keth had never encountered. Your species fights like animals, Blake continued. All teeth and claws and brute force. Humans fight like humans. We use our brains. We plan. We adapt. We innovate. Vex looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. These were warriors who had never known defeat, soldiers who had conquered entire worlds. Now they cowered before weapons they couldn't understand wielded by a species they had never heard of. What happens now? Vex asked quietly. Blake's expression grew serious. Now you learn what mercy looks like when it comes from the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. Captain Blake watched the alien ship drift helplessly in space. He could see the fear in the enemy captain's eyes through the communication link. It was a look he had seen before, the moment when a predator realized it had become prey. Kjarn. Crew is probably wondering why you're still alive, Blake said calmly. Most species would have destroyed your ship by now. Humans are different. Vex's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. His claws left deep scratches in the metal. What do you want from us? I want you to understand something very important, Blake replied. This isn't about revenge or conquest, this is about sending a message. Blake turned to Walsh. Target their communication array. Surgical strike only. Aye, Captain, Walsh responded. His fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. Kinetic projectile loaded, micro round selected. The weapon fired with barely a whisper. A tungsten projectile no larger than a marble struck the Crimson Talon's main communication dish with perfect precision. The dish simply vanished in a puff of metal vapor, leaving the surrounding hull completely untouched. Communication systems. Offline, Drac reported from his station, his voice shaking. But there's no other damage. How did they target something so small from this distance? Vex stared at his tactical display. The human ship was still over 1,000 kilometers away, yet they had hit a target no bigger than a dinner table. The precision was impossible by Keth standards. Humans have been shooting at each other for thousands of years, Blake explained over the still-functioning internal comm system. We've gotten very good at hitting exactly what we aim for. Blake nodded to Walsh again. Now their sensor array, same precision. Another micro-round fired. This time it struck the ship's primary sensor cluster, destroying the delicate instruments. While leaving the housing intact, the Crimson Talon was now blind as well as mute. Sensors are down, reported Rix, panic creeping into his voice. Captain, we can't see anything beyond visual range. We're completely cut off. You're beginning to understand, Blake's voice continued through their internal speakers. Every shot I take is exactly where I want it. Your ship has over 3,000 critical systems. I can disable any of them individually or all of them at once. To demonstrate his point, Blake ordered another series of precise strikes. The shield generators went next, followed by the backup power systems. Then the artificial gravity controls. Each shot hit its target with surgical accuracy, leaving the crew unharmed but their ship increasingly helpless. Vex watched his ship die piece by piece. Systems that had functioned perfectly for decades simply stopped working. But there were no explosions, no hull breaches, no casualties. The humans were dismantling the Crimson Talon like a mechanic taking apart an engine. This is impossible, Vex whispered. No one can fight like this. Captain, Beck called out from his security station. I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the human ship. They're charging something big. On the main screen, the Defiance began to change again. New weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. Energy readings spiked to levels that made the Keth instrument scream warnings. That would be our main gravitational cannon, Blake explained. It can create a black hole the size of a marble that lasts for exactly 3 seconds. Long enough to crush your ship into a ball of compressed metal, but not long enough to affect local spacetime. The weapon charged with a deep humming sound that somehow carried through the vacuum of space. Every Keth on the bridge felt their scales prickle with primitive fear. Or perhaps you'd prefer our quantum shredder, Blake continued. It breaks down matter at the subatomic level. Very thorough, very final. Another weapon system came online. This one looked like a crystal array that pulsed with inner light. Wait, Vex said desperately. What do you want? Name your terms. Blake paused. The weapons remained charged but didn't fire. I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Your species has been raiding human colonies for months, taking our people as slaves, destroying our ships. You think this makes you strong? We are strong, Vex protested weakly. The Keth Empire has conquered dozens of species. No, Blake replied. You've bullied weaker civilizations. You've never fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Today you learn the difference. Blake gestured to his tactical officer. Show them the fleet. The Defiance's sensors revealed what had been hidden until now. Dozens of ships materialized around the Crimson Talon, emerging from stealth fields that had made them completely invisible. They were all human vessels, all armed with the same impossible weapons. 37 ships, Blake announced, each one capable of destroying your vessel in seconds. This entire encounter has been observed and recorded by the human fleet. Vex felt his heart sink. They weren't facing one strange ship with impossible weapons. They were surrounded by an entire fleet of them. But here's what's going to happen, Blake continued. Nothing. Nothing? Vex repeated, confused. That's right, nothing. I'm not going to destroy your ship. I'm not going to kill your crew. I'm not even going to take you prisoner. Vex stared at the screen in disbelief. Why? Because dead enemies can't deliver messages, Blake replied. And I have a very important message for your empire. Blake stood up from his command chair and walked closer to the screen. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Listen carefully, Captain Vex of the Keth Empire. You will return to your homeworlds. You will tell your leaders exactly what happened here. You will explain that humanity is now active in this galaxy. Blake paused to let his words sink in. Any species that approaches us in peace will be welcomed as friends and trading partners. We have much to offer to those who choose cooperation over conquest. The human captain's expression grew cold. But any species that comes to us with thoughts of slavery or conquest will discover why humans are the most dangerous thing that ever crawled out of any gravity well in the universe. Blake turned to Walsh. Restore their engines and basic systems. Give them enough power to reach home. Sir, are you sure about this? Walsh asked. They could report our positions to their fleet. That's exactly what I want them to do, Blake replied. The more their empire knows about human capabilities, the less likely they are to make the mistake of challenging us. Power began returning to the Crimson Talon systems. Not all of them, and not at full capacity, but enough to limp home. The crew worked frantically to restore basic functions. Captain Vex, Blake said as the communication link prepared to close. You've seen what one human ship can do. Imagine what 1,000 can do. Imagine what 1,000,000 can do. Blake smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Your empire has two choices. Learn to coexist peacefully with humanity, or learn why we spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. The communication link closed, leaving the Keth crew alone with their thoughts and their crippled ship. 3 weeks later, Captain Vex sat in the Grand Council chamber of Keth Prime, facing the most powerful beings in the Empire. The High Council consisted of 12 ancient Keth who had ruled for centuries, their scales darkened with age and their eyes sharp with intelligence. They had built their empire through conquest and fear, and they did not like what they were hearing. Explain this again, demanded High Counselor Thex, his voice echoing through the chamber. You claim that a single primitive ship defeated the Crimson Talon? Vex had been dreading this moment since his ship limped back to port. The story sounded impossible even to him, and he had lived through it. But the evidence was undeniable. His ship bore the precise scars of weapons that defied understanding. Not defeated, Counselor, Vex replied carefully. They chose not to destroy us. Every action they took was calculated and precise. They could have killed us all in seconds, but they wanted us alive to deliver their message. Messages are for diplomats, sneered Counselor Zek from her seat. Warriors settle disputes with weapons. These humans are both, Vex said. They showed me weapons that turned warfare into a science. They spoke of treaties and trade, but their ships could crack. Planets, the council chamber fell silent. For 500 years, the Keth Empire had been the dominant force in this region of space. They had never encountered a species that combined advanced technology with strategic thinking. Show us the recordings, ordered High Counselor Thex. Vex activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The images from his ship's sensors played out in 3 dimensions, showing the human vessel's transformation from apparent cargo ship to advanced warship. The council watched in growing concern as weapons emerged that their scientists couldn't identify. Pause there, commanded Counselor Vach, pointing at the display. What is that weapon system? They called it a gravitational cannon, Vex replied. It can create artificial black holes, small ones but powerful enough to crush any ship. Several council members exchanged worried glances. The Keth had mastered plasma weapons and energy shields, but gravitational manipulation was beyond their understanding. Continue, Thex ordered. The recording showed the precise strikes that disabled the Crimson Talon systems one by one. Each shot hit exactly where the humans intended, causing no unnecessary damage but leaving critical systems completely inoperative. Impossible precision, muttered Counselor Rix. No species can target that accurately at such range. The human captain explained it, Vex said. They have been fighting wars for thousands of years, not against aliens, but against other humans. They have perfected warfare through constant practice. This statement caused an uproar in the chamber. The Keth had always assumed that their aggressive nature made them superior warriors. The idea that another species could be more violent was disturbing. What about their fleet strength? Asked Counselor Dex. Vex activated another part of the recording, showing the moment when 37 human ships materialized around his vessel. The council watched in stunned silence as ship after ship emerged from what had appeared to be empty space. Stealth technology, Vex explained. They can hide entire fleets from our sensors. We never knew they were there until they chose to reveal themselves. High Counselor Thex leaned forward in his chair. What was their message? Vex straightened and recited the words that had been burned into his memory. Any species that approaches humanity in peace will be welcomed. Any species that comes with conquest in mind will discover why humans are the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some council members called for immediate war. Others demanded more information. A few suggested caution, which was unusual for the typically aggressive Keth leadership. Silence, Vex commanded. The chamber fell quiet. Captain Vex, in your professional opinion, could the Keth Empire defeat these humans in open warfare? Vex had been dreading this question. He thought of the weapons he had seen, the casual way the humans had disabled his ship, the terrifying precision of their attacks. No, Counselor, he said quietly. I do not believe we could. This admission sent shockwaves through the council. The Keth Empire had never encountered a foe they couldn't eventually defeat through superior numbers or more aggressive tactics. Explain, Thex demanded. Their technology is beyond ours, Vex replied. But more than that, their approach to warfare is completely different. We fight with emotion and aggression. They fight with cold calculation and perfect precision. Every weapon they showed me was designed for a specific purpose. Every action they took served a strategic goal. Vex paused, remembering the human captain's calm demeanor throughout the encounter. They think differently than we do, he continued. When we see an enemy, we want to destroy them completely. When they see an enemy, they consider all possible outcomes and choose the most effective response. Sometimes that means destruction. Sometimes it means sending a message. Counselor Zek leaned forward. Are you suggesting the Keth Empire should bow to these humans? I'm suggesting we should be very careful about how we proceed, Vex replied. They offered us a choice, peace or war. Based on what I saw, peace would be much better for our continued survival. The council debated for hours. Some members wanted to mass the entire Imperial fleet and attack human space immediately. Others argued for caution and further reconnaissance. A few even suggested accepting the human offer of peaceful contact. Finally, High Counselor Thex called for order. The council will consider all options. Captain Vex, you will remain available for further questioning. Your ship will be examined by our best scientists. As the council session ended, Vex walked through the corridors of the Imperial Palace with a heavy heart. He had served the Keth Empire his entire adult life, believing in their superiority and their destiny to rule the galaxy. Now that certainty was gone, the humans had shattered more than his ship's systems. They had broken the foundation of everything the Keth believed about themselves. For centuries, the Empire had been the apex predator in their region of space. Now they had met something that made them look like scavengers by comparison. Vex thought about Captain Blake's final words. Learn to coexist peacefully with humanity, or learn why we spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. The choice seemed obvious to him, but he knew the council would struggle with it. The Keth had built their identity around being conquerors. Accepting that another species was more dangerous would require them to completely rethink who they were. 3 days later, the council's decision was announced. The Keth Empire would send diplomatic envoys to human space, officially requesting peaceful contact and trade negotiations. It was the first time in 500 years that the Keth had chosen diplomacy over warfare. The age of easy conquest was over. The humans had seen to that. As Vex prepared his ship for the diplomatic mission, he wondered what other surprises humanity might have in store for the galaxy. If this was how they treated aggressive neighbors, how would they deal with species that came in friendship? He was curious to find out, but not curious enough to test their patience again. The galaxy had new apex predators, and they spoke softly while carrying very big sticks. Captain Vex stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, his blue skin glowing softly under the ship's gentle lights. The Altarian had served in the Galactic Survey Fleet for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, we're getting strange readings from the Void Sector," said Lieutenant K, her 6 arms dancing across the control panel. The insect-like hive species was known for their precision, but even she seemed confused by the data. "What kind of readings?" Vex asked, walking closer to the main screen. "There's a ship out there, Captain, but it shouldn't exist." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Void Sector. It was a region of space so dangerous that no civilized race had ever dared to explore it properly. The area was filled with radiation storms, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies that could tear apart even the strongest military vessels. "Show me," Vex commanded. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a grainy image of something floating in the darkness. At first, it looked like space debris, but as the sensors focused, the crew could see it was definitely a ship. "A very strange ship by the 7 moons," whispered Dr. Cole, the ship's chief scientist. The tall, gray-skinned Zentari stepped forward, his large black eyes wide with shock. "Captain, that vessel, it's covered in battle damage." Vex studied the image carefully. The ship was relatively small, maybe half the size of the Harmony's edge. But what made everyone stare was the incredible amount of damage covering its hull. Scorch marks from plasma weapons ran along its sides. Deep gouges showed where something had tried to tear it apart. Meteor impacts had left craters across its surface. Most shocking of all, there were weapon marks from at least 12 different alien technologies. "How is it still in one piece?" asked Commander Rex, the ship's military advisor. The red-scaled Draken had fought in 3 galactic wars and knew battle damage when he saw it. Any one of those hits should have destroyed it completely. "That's not the strangest part," Kay said, her antennae twitching nervously. "According to our scans, the ship is still functioning. Life support is active. The engine core is stable. It's like the damage doesn't even matter." Engineer Bay rolled forward on his mechanical legs. The robot-like construct species was rarely surprised by anything technical, but even he seemed puzzled. "The hull material is unknown to our databases. It appears to be some kind of metal alloy, but it's unlike anything in galactic records." Dr. Cole was already running detailed scans. "Captain, I'm reading life signs aboard that vessel. Faint, but definitely there. The beings appear to be in some kind of suspended state." "Origin?" Vex asked. There was a long pause. Dr. Cole checked his readings 3 times before answering. "Sol 3, Captain, the 3rd planet in the Sol system." The bridge went completely quiet. Everyone in the Galactic Federation knew about Sol 3. It was listed in every database as a Class 115 death world, the highest danger rating possible. The planet was considered so hostile to life that most scientists believed nothing could survive there, let alone develop intelligence in spaceflight. "That's impossible," Rex said flatly. "No species has ever survived on a Class 115 world. The classification exists purely for theoretical purposes." "Sir," Kay interrupted, "I'm getting more detailed readings now. The environmental systems inside that ship." She paused, checking her instruments again. "Captain, the temperature inside is set to levels that would kill most of us within minutes. The atmospheric pressure would crush a Zentari. The oxygen concentration is toxic to 7 different species on this ship." "And the life forms are surviving in those conditions?" Vex asked. "Not just surviving," Dr. Cole said, his voice filled with scientific excitement and terror. "According to these readings, those conditions are optimal for them. Captain, we may have discovered the first species to actually evolve on a Class 115 death world." Engineer Bay made a mechanical humming sound that indicated deep thought. "I'm analyzing their ship's construction. The design philosophy is completely alien to us. Where we build for efficiency and comfort, they've built for survival. Every system has multiple backups. The hull is designed to take massive damage and keep functioning. Even their life support can operate in conditions that would be considered emergency situations for us. What kind of world creates beings like this?" Rex wondered aloud. Dr. Cole pulled up the Sol 3 files on his personal screen. According to our databases, Sol 3 has weather systems that generate storms powerful enough to level cities. The surface temperature varies from extreme cold to extreme heat. The planet experiences regular natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive floods. The ecosystem is filled with predators designed for killing. And something intelligent evolved there? Vex asked. It appears so. And not just intelligent, capable of building spacecraft and surviving in the vacuum of space. Lieutenant K's antennae drooped. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting traces of at least 15 different alien technologies in that ship's weapon systems. It's as if they've encountered multiple species and learned from them. Learned how to fight them, Rex corrected grimly. Captain Vex stared at the damaged ship on his screen. In his 20 years of service, he had encountered hundreds of different species. Some were peaceful, some were aggressive, some were strange beyond understanding. But he had never encountered anything that challenged the basic assumptions of galactic civilization. Every species in the Federation had evolved on worlds that were safe enough to develop culture, art, and philosophy. They had learned to solve problems through cooperation and technology. War existed, but it was usually limited and civilized. But what would a species be like if it had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill it? What would their culture look like? Their technology, their approach to conflict? Sir, Dr. Cole said quietly, we need to make a decision. Do we maintain safe distance and report this to the Council, or do we attempt contact? Vex considered his options. The safe choice would be to call for a full military escort and let the experts handle first contact. But something about the battered ship called to him. Despite all the battle damage, despite coming from the most dangerous world imaginable, the vessel wasn't attacking, it was just floating there. Captain, Engineer Bay said, I'm detecting a signal from their ship. It's weak, but it appears to be some kind of distress call. They're asking for help? Kay asked in surprise. It would seem so. Captain Vex made his decision. Prepare a boarding party. Dr. Cole, Commander Rex, Engineer Bay, you're with me. Kay, maintain safe distance but keep all sensors focused on that ship. If anything goes wrong, jump to hyperspace immediately and report to command. Sir, Rex said carefully. Are you sure about this? We have no idea what we're dealing with. Vex looked at the screen one more time. The ship hung in space like a wounded animal, scarred by battles across the galaxy, but somehow still alive. Whatever species had built it had survived the impossible. They had turned the most dangerous world known to galactic science into their home. No, he said finally. I'm not sure at all. But that's exactly why we need to find out what they are. As the Harmony's Edge moved closer to the mysterious vessel, none of the crew could imagine that they were about to make first contact with a species that would change everything they thought they knew about survival, strength, and what it meant to be truly dangerous. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Vex stepped into the alien ship. The first thing that hit him was the smell, sharp, metallic, with traces of something that made his nose burn. Behind him, Dr. Cole coughed and adjusted his breathing mask. The air is safe to breathe, Dr. Cole said, checking his scanner. But it's harsh. Very harsh. Commander Rex kept his weapon ready but not raised. The red-scaled Dracon had fought many battles, but stepping onto this ship felt different. Everything about it screamed danger. Sharp metal edges jutted from walls where other species would have smooth curves. The lighting was too bright, casting hard shadows everywhere. Even the floor felt wrong under their feet, designed for beings with much stronger bones. This corridor could cut someone just by walking through it, Rex muttered. Engineer Bay rolled forward on his mechanical legs, scanning everything. The design makes no sense, he said. Where we would use force fields for safety, they use physical barriers. Where we would use automated systems, they use manual controls. It's like they expect everything to break. Maybe everything does break on their world, Dr. Cole suggested. They moved deeper into the ship. Every room they passed showed the same strange design philosophy. Controls that required incredible hand strength to operate. Chairs that seemed built for beings with bones like steel. Temperature controls set to levels that would cook most galactic species alive. Here, Dr. Cole said, stopping at a reinforced door. Life signs are strongest behind this barrier. The door was massive, thick metal with locking mechanisms that looked like they belonged on a bank vault. Engineer Bay worked on the controls while the others waited. After several minutes, the door slowly ground open. Inside was a room filled with sleeping pods. But these weren't the elegant stasis chambers used by civilized species. These looked more like medical emergency units, built for keeping someone alive in the worst possible conditions. "By the stars," whispered Dr. Cole. Through the transparent covers, they could see the beings inside. They were bipedal like many galactic species, but smaller than expected. Their skin was a strange pale color, and they had hair growing from their heads in various shades. What shocked the boarding party was how normal they looked. "They're not very big," Rex observed. "Don't let that fool you," Dr. Cole said, reading his scanner with growing alarm. "Their bone density is off the charts. Muscle fiber efficiency is beyond anything in our databases. And their cardiovascular systems." He paused, checking the readings again. "Rex, their hearts are built like industrial pumps." "What does that mean?" "It means they're designed for sustained extreme stress. Their bodies can function under conditions that would kill us in seconds." Engineer Bay was examining the sleeping pods. "These aren't stasis chambers," he announced. "They're just sleeping. In conditions that register as lethal to my sensors, they're simply taking a nap." As if responding to his words, one of the beings began to stir. The creature's eyes opened, small, bright, and instantly alert. Where most species took time to recover from stasis, this being went from sleep to full awareness in seconds. The creature sat up slowly, looking around the room with calm intelligence. When it saw the boarding party, it didn't panic or reach for weapons. Instead, it smiled. "Hello," the being said in perfect galactic standard. "I'm Dan." The simplicity of the greeting stunned them all. Here was a creature from the most dangerous world in known space, and it was being polite. "You speak our language?" Dr. Cole asked. "We've been listening to galactic broadcasts for a while," Dan replied, climbing out of his pod with fluid grace. "We learned several languages before we started exploring. Standard protocol for first contact." Dan was shorter than any of them, but as he moved, Rex noticed something unsettling. Every step was perfectly balanced. Every gesture was controlled. This being moved like a predator, relaxed, but ready to explode into action at any moment. "Are you injured?" Dr. Cole asked, noting the scars visible on Dan's arms. Dan looked confused for a moment, then laughed. "Oh, these? No, these are normal. You collect scars living on Earth. Part of growing up." "Growing up?" "Yeah, learning to survive. Everyone has scars." Dan's tone was casual, as if discussing the weather. The other pods were opening now. 3 more beings emerged, 2 males and 1 female, all moving with that same predatory grace. They introduced themselves as Kate, Tom, and Sam. All were friendly, curious, and completely unaware of how terrifying they appeared to the galactic visitors. "So you're from the Galactic Federation?" asked Kate, the female. She was examining Engineer Bay with obvious interest. "We've been hoping to make contact. Earth has so many questions about other worlds." "Your ship has taken massive damage," Rex pointed out. "How are you still alive?" Tom, who appeared to be their medic, shrugged. "The endurance is tough. We built her to last. Had some run-ins with hostile species, but nothing we couldn't handle." "Hostile species?" Dr. Cole leaned forward. "How many?" "Let's see," Sam said, counting on her fingers. "The Razor Swarm near Alpha Centauri. Those crystal beings in the Vega system who tried to eat our ship. The machine race that wanted to study us by taking us apart. The pirates in 3 different sectors. Oh, and those fungus creatures who thought we'd make good fertilizer." She said it all with the same tone someone might use to list grocery items. "You fought all of them?" Rex asked, his military mind struggling to process this information. Well, we tried diplomacy first, Dan said. We always try talking, but sometimes you have to fight. That's just how the universe works. Dr. Cole was running continuous scans on the humans, and each reading made him more nervous. Their resting heart rate was higher than most species' combat rate. Their muscle tension suggested they were ready for immediate action despite appearing completely relaxed. Most disturbing of all, their brain activity showed constant tactical assessment. They were unconsciously evaluating every person and object in the room as either resource, threat, or irrelevant. Your world, Dr. Cole said carefully. We have it classified as uninhabitable. Class 115 Death World. Death World? Kate laughed. That's a bit dramatic. Sure, Earth can be dangerous, but it's home. Beautiful place, really. You should visit sometime. Visit a Class 115 Death World? The weather's been nice lately, Tom added helpfully. Only had 2 major hurricanes this season, and the volcano activity is down. Spring is always pleasant, just watch out for the tornadoes. The casual way they discussed planetary disasters that would evacuate entire galactic colonies made Rex's scales stand on end. Perhaps, Dr. Cole said slowly, you would like to come aboard our ship? We have medical facilities, comfortable quarters. That's very kind, Dan said. We'd love to see your ship. Fair warning, though. We might need some adjustments to your life support. What you probably consider normal might be a bit soft for us. As they prepared to escort the humans back to the Harmony's edge, Rex couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't rescuing survivors. They were inviting apex predators aboard their ship. And the most unsettling part was how genuinely friendly these predators seemed to be. The humans settled into the guest quarters aboard the Harmony's edge with surprising ease. Captain Vex watched from the bridge as his crew tried to make their new visitors comfortable, but every attempt seemed to reveal something more unsettling about these beings from Earth. Captain, Lieutenant K reported, her 6 arms trembling slightly. The humans have requested food. That seems reasonable. What's the problem? They're asking for items that register as industrial solvents in our database. Vex frowned. Show me. On the main screen he watched as Tom cheerfully consumed what the ship's computer labeled as highly corrosive cleaning fluid. The human had asked for something called coffee and seemed perfectly happy with the closest chemical match the EU food processors could provide. He's drinking acid, Kay whispered. In another part of the dining area, Kate was eating what appeared to be concentrated plant toxins mixed with processed minerals. She called it a salad with salt. Sam was consuming fermented organic matter that would poison most galactic species, claiming it was just bread and cheese. Dr. Cole approached Captain Vex with his medical scanner in hand. Sir, I've been running continuous biological studies on our guests. The results are disturbing. In what way? Their digestive systems can process almost anything organic as food. The chemicals they consume for pleasure would require emergency medical treatment for us. But that's not the worst part, huh? Dr. Cole pulled up his readings on a portable screen. Watch this. The display showed Dan's vital signs as he sat calmly talking with Engineer Bay. He appears relaxed, Vex observed. Now look at these readings from when I told him we were approaching an asteroid field. The new readings were nearly identical. His stress response barely changed, Dr. Cole explained. Captain, I told him we were heading into mortal danger, and his heart rate increased by only 5 beats per minute. For comparison, when I told Lieutenant K the same thing, her stress levels tripled. What does that mean? It means they consider mortal danger to be normal. Their baseline stress level is what we would experience during a life-threatening emergency. Meanwhile, in the ship's exercise facility, the humans had asked for a place to stay in shape. Commander Rex had offered them the standard fitness equipment used by various galactic species. What followed challenged everything the crew thought they knew about physical capability. Sir, Rex reported over the comm system, you need to see this. When Vex arrived at the fitness center, he found the humans casually performing physical exercises that would require powered armor for most species. Dan was lifting weights that would crush a Zentari's bones. Kate was running at speeds that only military enhancement drugs could achieve in other races. Tom was performing acrobatic moves that defied several laws of physics. "They're not even sweating hard," Rex said in amazement. "This is what they call light exercise." "What do they do for heavy exercise?" Vex asked. I was afraid to ask. Sam noticed their audience and waved cheerfully. "Great gym. Though, do you have anything heavier? This is about what we'd use for warming up back home." Engineer Bay rolled over to study the equipment. "These weights are rated for maximum Dracon military specification," he informed her. "Oh, that's nice," Sam said politely. "Do you have anything for serious strength training?" Later that day, Dr. Cole invited the humans to share stories about their homeworld. What he heard made him question everything he thought he knew about survival and civilization. "So Earth has weather," Dan was explaining to a fascinated group of alien crew members. "Sometimes it gets pretty intense." "Define intense," Dr. Cole requested. "Well, we get these storms called hurricanes that can level entire cities. The winds move fast enough to turn debris into missiles. Then there are tornadoes, spinning columns of air that can pick up buildings and throw them around." "And people live through these storms?" asked Lieutenant K. "Sure. You just prepare for them. Build strong shelters, stock up on supplies, watch the weather reports. Most people survive just fine." Kate jumped in. "The hurricanes aren't too bad if you're ready for them. It's the earthquakes that can catch you off guard. When the ground starts shaking hard enough to knock down mountains, you just have to ride it out and hope your building doesn't fall down." "Mountains fall down?" Engineer Bay's mechanical voice cracked slightly. "Sometimes," Tom added casually. "Volcanoes are worse, though. When one erupts near your city, the ash can block out the sun for months. Plus there's the lava flows, poisonous gases, and rocks falling from the sky like bombs." The alien crew listened in horrified silence as the humans described their homeworld with the same tone others might use to discuss a pleasant vacation spot. "But surely you have safe places?" Dr. Cole asked desperately. "Areas without these disasters?" "Not really," Sam said thoughtfully. "The ocean areas get tsunamis, walls of water hundreds of feet high that wash away everything on the coast. The desert regions have sandstorms that can strip flesh from bone, and temperatures that would cook you alive. The polar areas will freeze you solid in minutes. The forests are full of predators that hunt in packs." "Predators?" Rex leaned forward with professional interest. "Oh yeah. Bears that can tear apart vehicles. Cats that hunt silently and can kill prey 3 times their size. Wolves that work together like military units. Snakes with venom that stops your heart. Spiders whose bite makes your flesh rot away." "And humans live alongside these creatures?" "We manage," Dan said with a shrug. "Most animals leave you alone, if you don't bother them. You just have to be smart about it. Know which ones are dangerous, how to avoid them, what to do if you meet one." Dr. Cole was taking notes frantically. "Your technology must be incredibly advanced to survive in such conditions." The humans looked at each other and laughed. "Not really," Kate said. "Our philosophy is pretty simple. If something can break, it will break at the worst possible time. So we build everything to be tough, simple, and repairable." "Your spacecraft," Engineer Bay said. "It uses very basic systems compared to galactic. Standard?" "Exactly," Tom said excitedly. "Fancy computers crash when you need them most. Complex systems fail in emergencies. But a simple mechanical backup will work even if everything else goes wrong." "We learned that the hard way," Sam added. "Earth teaches you that the universe is trying to kill you, so you better be ready for anything." As the conversation continued, Captain Vex realized something that made his blue skin turn pale. These beings weren't just survivors of a dangerous world. They were the products of millions of years of evolution on a planet that had systematically eliminated anything that wasn't tough enough, smart enough, and adaptable enough to handle constant threats. They were apex predators disguised as friendly neighbors, and they genuinely had no idea how terrifying they were to the rest of the galaxy. The attack came without warning. Red lights flashed across the bridge of the Harmony's edge as Lieutenant K's panicked voice filled the ship. "Captain, multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Configuration matches Drac Confederation pirates." Captain Vex felt his stomach drop. The Drac pirates were notorious throughout this sector. Aggressive, well-armed, and known for taking no prisoners. Their ships were built for one purpose: overwhelming their targets with superior firepower. "Shields up," Vex ordered. "Prepare evasive maneuvers. Send a distress signal to the nearest Federation patrol." Commander Rex was already at his station, checking weapon systems. "Sir, we have basic defensive capabilities, but this is a survey ship. We're not equipped for serious combat." On the main screen, 5 Drac warships emerged from hyperspace, their black hulls bristling with weapons. Each ship was twice the size of the Harmony's Edge and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "This is Captain Morg of the Drac Confederation," a harsh voice crackled over the comm system. "Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Dr. Cole looked up from his sensor readings. "Captain, they're powering up their main weapons. Impact in 60 seconds. Vex felt helpless. The Harmony's Edge was a peaceful exploration vessel. Against 5 Drac warships, they had no chance of survival. "Captain," a calm voice said behind him. Vex turned to see Dan standing at the back of the bridge. The human's expression was different now, still friendly, but with something else underneath. Something that made Vex's scales prickle with instinctive fear. "Would you like us to help?" Dan asked politely. "Help how?" Vex replied, confusion mixing with desperation. "We've dealt with pirates before," Dan said, as casually as if discussing the weather. "May we access your weapon systems?" Rex turned from his station. "This ship barely has weapons. We have light defensive lasers and basic shields. Against 5 Drac warships." "That should be enough," Dan interrupted, still speaking in that calm, reasonable tone. Before anyone could respond, the other humans appeared on the bridge. Kate moved to the weapons console, her fingers dancing over controls she shouldn't have been able to understand. Tom took position at the shield controls, making adjustments that had Engineer Bay's optical sensors spinning in confusion. Sam slid into the navigation chair, her hands moving over the flight controls with impossible familiarity. "Wait," Vex said. "How do you know our systems?" "We've been watching and learning," Kate replied without looking up from her console. "Standard procedure when visiting a new ship. Always understand your environment. You've memorized our entire ship in 3 days? Basic survival skill," Tom said, his fingers working rapidly across the shield controls. "Know your tools, know your escape routes, know your options." The Drac ships were closing fast, their weapons charging for the killing blow. On any other day, the crew of the Harmony's Edge would have been preparing for death. Instead, they watched in amazement as the humans transformed their peaceful survey ship into something else entirely. "Redistributing power from non-essential systems," Kate announced. "Rerouting energy from the coffee makers, climate control, and entertainment systems to weapons. Modifying shield frequency to maximum efficiency," Tom added. "Also polarizing the hull plating to deflect energy weapons." "Plotting evasive course through the asteroid field," Sam reported. "Using gravitational shadows to mask our approach." "What approach?" Commander Rex demanded. "We're running away, right?" Dan looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Rex, they attacked us. Running just tells them they can hunt us whenever they want. Better to solve the problem now." The lead Drac ship fired its main cannon. The massive energy beam that should have vaporized the Harmony's Edge instead struck their reconfigured shields and scattered harmlessly into space. "Impossible!" Captain Morg's voice roared over the comm. "No survey ship has shields that strong." "They don't," Dan said quietly. "But their shields weren't designed by humans." What followed was like watching a masterclass in applied violence. The humans didn't just fight the pirates. They turned the entire battle into a controlled demonstration of why attacking them had been a mistake. Sam piloted the ship through the asteroid field like it was a training course, using the spinning rocks as cover and weapons. She made the Harmony's Edge dance between massive boulders, leading the pirates into narrow passages where their larger ships couldn't maneuver. Kate turned the ship's simple defensive lasers into surgical instruments, targeting specific systems on the pirate vessels. Instead of trying to destroy the ships, She systematically disabled their weapons, engines, and life support with precise shots that shouldn't have been possible with their equipment. Tom managed the shields like a conductor leading an orchestra, redirecting power and adjusting frequencies to turn every pirate attack into a harmless light show. And Dan coordinated it all with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Second pirate ship disabled, Kate reported. Third ship attempting to retreat. Let them go? Sam asked, executing a maneuver that used a spinning asteroid to slingshot them behind the fourth pirate vessel. No, Dan said simply. They'll just attack someone else tomorrow. The battle ended in 12 minutes. 5 Drac warships, the terror of 3 star systems, were left floating helplessly in space, their crews alive but their ships completely disabled. This is Captain Morg, came a shaky transmission. We surrender. Please don't destroy us. We won't hurt you, Dan replied over the comm. But you need to understand something. This sector is under human protection now. Any ship that attacks, peaceful vessels will answer to us. Spread the word. The silence on the bridge of the Harmony's edge was complete. Every alien crew member stared at the humans with a mixture of awe and terror. How? Commander Rex finally whispered. Practice, Kate said with a shrug. Earth is basically a combat training ground. Everything there is trying to kill you, so you learn to fight smart. Your weapons modifications, Engineer Bay said, his voice circuits crackling with confusion. They violate 17 safety protocols. Safety? Protocols are for safe environments, Tom replied. In a fight, safety is winning fast enough that the other guy doesn't get a second shot. Captain Vex looked at the disabled pirate ships floating in space. You could have destroyed them. Why would we do that? Dan asked, seeming genuinely puzzled. They're not a threat anymore. Killing them wouldn't solve anything. But you could have. Captain, Dan said quietly. We're from a world where the weather can kill you, the animals hunt you, and the ground itself tries to swallow you alive. These pirates, he gestured at the screen. They're not even close to the most dangerous thing we've faced this week. As the Harmony's Edge resumed course, leaving the defeated pirates behind, Captain Vex realized that everything had changed. The humans weren't just survivors, or even warriors. They were apex predators who had learned to wage war with the same casual competence that other species use to make breakfast, and somehow, impossibly, they were still the friendliest beings he had ever met. 3 weeks after the pirate encounter, Captain Vex sat in his quarters writing the most important report of his career. The words on his screen would change everything the Galactic Federation thought it knew about the universe. Outside his window, he could see the capital world of New Geneva growing larger as they approached. Soon the humans would stand before the Galactic Council and nothing would ever be the same. A soft chime announced a visitor. Come in, Vex called. Dan entered, carrying 2 cups of what the humans called coffee. The liquid still registered as industrial solvent on the ship's sensors, but Vex had learned to accept such impossibilities where humans were concerned. Thought you might want some caffeine, Dan said, offering 1 cup. You've been working on that report for hours. Vex accepted the cup carefully. Over the past weeks, the humans had somehow modified the ship's food processors to create beverages safe for other species. It was typical of their approach. They solved problems others didn't even know existed. I'm trying to explain what you are to people who have no frame of reference, Vex said. How do I tell the Council that we've discovered a species of friendly apex predators? Dan sat down across from him. Is that what we are to you? Dan, your people casually describe planetary disasters as minor weather. You treat combat like a routine maintenance task. Yesterday I watched Kate fix our main engine by manually holding components that would kill most species through radiation exposure alone. She wore gloves, Dan pointed out. The gloves were melting. Dan shrugged. Kate's always been good with her hands. Back home, she worked on oil rigs in the North Sea during winter storms. Ship engines are easy compared to that. This was exactly what Vex meant. The humans discussed impossible feats like they were ordinary jobs, over the ship's comm. System. Dr. Cole's excited voice called for attention. Captain, you need to see this. The humans have been helping with our research data. Vex and Dan made their way to the science lab where they found Dr. Cole surrounded by holographic displays showing months of survey data. What am I looking at? Vex asked. 3 weeks of work compressed into 6 hours. Dr. Cole replied, his voice filled with scientific joy. The humans looked at our survey methods and made suggestions. Simple changes that increased our efficiency by 400%. Tom looked up from a complicated sensor array he was apparently rebuilding. Your equipment is really advanced, he said, but it's designed for perfect conditions. We just made some modifications so it works better when things go wrong. What kind of modifications? Redundant systems mostly, Kate explained, not looking up from her own work. Multiple backups, manual overrides, simplified repair procedures, standard stuff. Engineer Bay rolled over, his optical sensors glowing with excitement. Captain, they've revolutionized our maintenance protocols. Equipment that used to require 3 days of careful shutdown procedures can now be repaired while running. How is that possible? They assume everything will break at the worst possible moment, Bay explained. So they design systems that can be fixed during emergencies. It's brilliant. In the ship's recreation area, Sam was teaching Lieutenant K a human game called chess. The strategic complexity had fascinated several crew members, but what impressed Vex was how naturally the humans thought in terms of long-term planning and resource management. The key, Sam was explaining, is to think several moves ahead while staying flexible enough to adapt when your opponent does something unexpected. Like tactical planning? Kay asked, moving her piece carefully. Exactly. Chess is just war without the blood. Every human learns strategy games as children. Helps you survive. Commander Rex appeared at Vex's shoulder. Captain, I've been analyzing their combat performance against the pirates. Their tactical thinking is unprecedented. How so? They don't just react to threats. They anticipate them, prepare for them, and turn them into advantages. It's like they've been fighting their entire lives. They have, Vex said quietly. Their whole world has been fighting them since the day they were born. As they approached New Geneva, news of the pirate encounter had already spread throughout the galaxy. Reports were flooding in from across the sector. Pirate attacks had dropped to almost zero. The mere rumor that humans were patrolling the trade routes had sent criminal organizations fleeing to safer territories. Sir, Kay reported from the bridge. We're receiving priority communications from the Galactic Council. They're very eager to meet our passengers. Dr. Cole joined them on the bridge, carrying a datapad full of biological readings. Captain, I've completed my full analysis of human physiology. The results are remarkable. Tell me. They're not just adapted to survive on a Class 115 death world. They're adapted to thrive there. Every system in their bodies is optimized for handling extreme stress, rapid adaptation, and constant threat assessment. Their evolution's answer to the question, what would happen if you took a species and gave it millions of years to adapt to the worst possible conditions? And the answer is, you get humans, beings who consider galactic catastrophes to be minor inconveniences and approach every problem with the assumption that failure means death. The Harmony's Edge docked at New Geneva Station, and within hours, delegations from dozens of species had arrived to meet the humans. The response was unlike anything in galactic history. The peaceful species wanted to learn human survival techniques. The military species wanted to understand human tactical thinking. The scientists wanted to study human technology philosophy. Everyone wanted to know how a species could be simultaneously so dangerous and so friendly. Dan, Kate, Tom, and Sam handled the attention with the same calm competence they brought to everything else. They answered questions, demonstrated techniques, and shared knowledge freely. They seemed genuinely happy to help other species become more resilient and capable. But Vex noticed something in the background. Military advisors were quietly updating threat assessments. Diplomatic corps were rewriting first contact protocols. Scientists were revising their understanding of what was possible for biological evolution. The humans had no idea, but their mere existence was forcing the entire galaxy to reconsider its assumptions about strength, survival, and civilization. Indcore. His final report to the Galactic Council, Captain Vex wrote, "We have discovered a species that represents both the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge in galactic history. Humans bring knowledge that could benefit every member species. They offer friendship, cooperation, and protection to those who need it. However, we must understand what we are dealing with. Humans are apex predators from a world that makes our worst nightmares look like pleasant dreams. They are capable of violence beyond our imagination, but they choose friendship instead. My recommendation: welcome them as allies. Learn from them, but never forget what they are. They are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered, and fortunately for all of us, they seem to like us. Note for future reference: when humans offer to help, accept gratefully. When they offer to fight beside you, feel honored. When they offer to fight against you, surrender immediately and apologize." As the Harmony's Edge prepared for its next survey mission, now with a permanent human advisor aboard, Captain Vex realized that the galaxy had just become a much safer place, and a much more interesting one.